On the first day of the extreme cold snap, I discovered my wife's affair with another man. My 5-year-old son pushed me out the door, shouting, "Don't hurt Uncle Neil!" As temperatures plummeted, the 4 of us found ourselves trapped under the same roof. The Met Office provided basic emergency rations based on the number of registered residents in each household. However, our family of 3 now had 4 mouths to feed. Later, I was strangled in my sleep by my wife's lover. As I struggled, my wife and son worked together to pin down my arms. I gave up fighting and drew my last breath. When I opened my eyes again, I had been reborn to a week before the blizzard struck. Ding! Story Shots reminds you to click the subscribe button at the bottom right corner to read the full novel. The sky outside was ablaze with a fiery sunset. The office air conditioning blew gently as my colleague from the next cubicle waited for the end of the day, sipping her black coffee. "What a beautiful sky. Something lucky is bound to happen today," she mused. Looking at the familiar scene before me, I felt a bit dazed. My hands unconsciously reached for my neck. The choking sensation of being strangled still seemed to linger in my throat. Remembering the disgusted looks on my wife and son's faces as I took my last breath, I involuntarily let out a gag. "Blimey, Hank, what's the matter? Are you pregnant or something?" My colleagues joked, hearing the commotion. "If he really is, it must be the company's baby. Seriously though, you workaholic, you should pay more attention to your family. It's not all about making money, you know?" It was only then that I came back to my senses, laughing self-deprecatingly. Thinking back to my previous life, I had worked myself to the bone to provide a better life for my family. Recently, I had even volunteered to transfer to a nearby city for a major company project. Because of this, I had neglected spending time with my family. Every time I went home, my son Ben would timidly hide behind my wife, looking at me with wary eyes. He didn't recognize me. I thought that since the child was young and didn't understand, my wife Jolie would at least appreciate my hard work and help Ben warm up to me. But not only did she not appreciate it, while I was pulling all-nighters at work, she was fooling around with her gym instructor. The 2 of them were using my money to eat out at fancy restaurants every day, feeding Ben junk food. And Ben was over the moon about it. Remembering how my son looked at Neil with admiration and eagerness to please in my previous life, couldn't help but sigh. I glanced at the time on my phone and the fiery sunset outside. In my previous life, after the sunset, it had started to drizzle. The rain got heavier and heavier, and after 7 days of downpour, it suddenly started to snow. In October, a layer of frost covered every corner of the British Isles. Even a dog could tell something wasn't right. What we were about to face was a true apocalyptic disaster. I had a week's time. I needed to take some measures. Just as I was thinking this, a message from my wife popped up. "Darling, could you transfer me some more money? Need to renew my gym membership. It's £1,800. In my previous life, this scene had played out too. I hadn't thought much of it then and had transferred the money right away. This time, I thought for a moment before replying. "Love, could you wait a bit? I've invested a small sum, about 10 grand. I'll withdraw it next week and give it to you all at once." Then I symbolically transferred her £200. "Sorry about this. Here's £200 for now. Why don't you get a nutritionist to plan a week's worth of salads for you? That'll help you slim down too. And maybe hold off on buying snacks for Ben. He looked a bit chubby last time I saw him. He should cut down too." "All right. You're the best, hubby. I'll wait for your transfer next week. I'll show you my abs when I get them. Teehee." Jolie sent a grinning emoji. I grinned in real life too. Aren't I just the best to you? Although Jolie was careful about her diet and exercise, Ben loved snacks and bought loads every day. They'd be able to last a while when the blizzard hit. When you two are stuck at home without even a ready meal to eat, then you'll know how good your husband really is. I glanced out the window at the blood-red clouds in the sky. I couldn't waste any more time at work. I stood up, ready to leave. A colleague called out, "Hey mate, we've still got a few minutes left." As I packed up my things, I replied, "You've convinced me. I've decided to take my annual leave starting tomorrow to spend some quality time with the wife and kid. Ignoring the teasing remarks behind me, I left the office with a serious expression. My mind raced, planning my next moves. With all the apocalyptic novels trending these days, I'd read a few myself. Stockpiling for doomsday had become common sense. The flat I was living in now was a company-rented apartment. It only had basic amenities, and the neighbors were a mixed bunch. If I started hoarding supplies there, it would definitely cause problems. With this in mind, I opened a property rental app and searched for nearby listings. Suddenly, my eyes lit up as I spotted a villa for rent in the suburbs. The big iron gates, thick walls, and metal fencing gave me a real sense of security. I quickly got in touch with the property manager and signed the contract that very day, paying 3 months' rent in advance. The manager explained that the owner suffered from paranoid delusions, always fearing someone would harm him in his sleep. So not only was the house fortified, but he'd also added an electric fence on top of the metal railings. CCTV cameras surrounded the villa, and even the front door was blast-proof. The owner's condition had worsened, so his family had taken him abroad for treatment. I walked around the house, nodding with satisfaction. The defenses were in place. Now I just needed food and proper heating. I remembered my past life, where I died due to food shortages. The blizzard had been raging for over 3 months by then, and the 4 of us had long since eaten all the food in the house. We barely scraped by on the rations distributed by officials. To prevent cheating, the supplies for our neighborhood were strictly allocated based on the number of residents. We only received enough food for 3 people. After months of this, I was gaunt with hunger. Jolie and her ex-husband Neil, being regular gym-goers, were in slightly better shape. No one knew when the blizzard would end, so we hadn't completely turned on each other yet. Until one day, the official supplies didn't come. They didn't come the next day or the day after that. In this state, everyone lived in constant fear. First, Ben would cry and hit me. He asked why I'd come back, saying that without me as his dad, the 3 of them could have eaten their fill. Eventually, he didn't even have the energy to cry anymore. To conserve energy, I slept as much as possible, resting for 18 hours a day. It was during one of these rest periods that Neil tried to strangle me from behind. I'd been prepared for this. You can't test human nature in extreme circumstances, especially since Neil was never a good person to begin with. I'd noticed Neil eyeing me strangely for a while, so I'd hidden a knife under my pillow. But just as I pulled out the knife to fight him off, Ben rushed over from the side. Afraid of hurting him, I raised my arm with the knife. But to my surprise, he was aiming for the knife. He snatched it from me and handed it to Neil like a prize. Neil was still choking me, with no free hand to take the knife. By then, my face was red from lack of air. My lungs starved of oxygen. Without the knife, I could only struggle with my hands and feet, trying to break free from Neil's grip. As I raised my hand to strike Neil's temple, my son shouted, "Bad Dad, don't you dare hurt Uncle Neil." Then his little hands pulled my arm down, his fingernails digging into my skin. Jolie ran into the room and was startled by the scene before her. After a moment's hesitation, as if she'd made up her mind about something, she rushed over to help Neil hold me down. And so, I finally breathed my last. In my final moments, I saw the relieved expressions on all 3 of their faces. Neil said that with me dead, there would be food, and the 3 of them could hold out a bit longer. My son was excited too, hugging Neil tightly. "Uncle Neil, now that my dad's dead, you can be my dad." The 3 of them shared a knowing smile as I closed my eyes for the last time. Thankfully, heaven took pity on me and gave me another chance. I knew that with my strength alone, I couldn't do much against a natural disaster. I could only try to change my own fate. Those 3, I wouldn't let any of them off the hook. But this time, without me there, when food ran short again, who would Neil target first? I must admit, I'm rather curious. The rain was getting heavier, droplets falling on my face. The memory of that gnawing hunger from my previous life, when I wanted to tear out my acid-filled stomach and eat it, was still fresh in my mind. I found a nearby pub and ordered a few of their signature dishes. The aroma of food mixed with the dampness in the air wafted towards me. Listening to the sound of rain outside, the reality of living a second life finally sank in. After devouring my meal, I opened my phone. I downloaded a Doomsday Survival Essentials guide directly from the internet. There were bound to be things I'd overlook, so it was better to follow someone else's compiled list. First, I ordered staples like flour, sugar, and cooking oil to stock up the manor. Then came ready meals, pasta, biscuits, various canned meats and fruits, dried vegetables, and cured meats. I also ordered plenty of snacks. Some emergency seeds were added too. I wasn't sure how long this doomsday would last, but it's better to be prepared. I did everything I could think of, at least to feel satisfied, at least to survive. I contacted some wholesalers, gave them the manor's address, and arranged for regular food deliveries. Then I reached out to a water company and ordered plenty of bottled water. In extreme cold weather, water and electricity would be scarce. Drinkable water resources would be limited. After some thought, I also ordered a water filter. If worst comes to worst, we could convert snow from outside into usable water. I prepared plenty of medicines and tools too, just in case. Regarding the energy issue, I purchased generators to ensure basic power supply inside and outside the manor. I wasn't sure who the previous owner was, but surprisingly, the manor's interior was fitted with insulation boards. Of course, insulation boards alone wouldn't be enough. I added large quantities of coal, hand warmers, thick quilts, and thermal blankets to my purchases. After buying everything, I returned to the manor to wait for the deliveries. Watching the basement gradually fill up gave me a strong sense of security. By the time everything was sorted, it was already the 6th day since my rebirth, with less than 2 days left before the extreme cold front arrived. I left the manor and went to the supermarket. I savored the still bustling atmosphere around me. 2 days later, there wouldn't even be a bird on the streets. I entered the supermarket and bought some fresh fruits, vegetables, and meat. There was a double-door refrigerator in the kitchen. I carried bags of food, gradually filling it up. Just as I finished and collapsed on the sofa with a bottle of cola, I noticed several missed calls on my phone. It was Jolie Stevens. "Hello, darling. When are you going to transfer that money? And don't forget this month's living expenses. You haven't forgotten, have you?" I put on a pitiful act. "Honey, I didn't dare tell you, but I lost all the money from that small investment last time. Give me 2 days, I have a fixed deposit that's about to mature. I'll transfer it to you as soon as it does, I promise." Before I could finish, Jolie hung up. Looking at the phone screen, I let out a cold laugh. I knew that by now Neil Clark was already living with her. They were both used to demanding money from me, eager to splurge. In my previous life, I always felt I didn't spend enough time with my wife and child, so I gave them whatever they asked for materially. Jolie had grown accustomed to being arrogant and domineering with me, hanging up as soon as she realized she couldn't get money. Thinking about it now, I wanted to slap myself. I walked to the window. On the 2nd floor of the manor, there was a huge floor-to-ceiling window with reinforced glass. Looking out now, I could see tiny ice crystals mixed in with the drizzling rain. It had started to snow. Upon waking, I found all my group chats buzzing with discussions about the blizzard outside. Due to the sudden temperature drop, work and schools were temporarily suspended across the country. I noticed colleagues chatting in our work group. "Who cares why it's snowing? I hope it keeps going until Friday, so we can have a long weekend off work." Doesn't anyone find this snow odd? It's only October. How can we have such heavy snowfall? I suspect it's some kind of biochemical weapon from a certain country. That country's got it worse than us. Even more snow there. Whatever, let's go stock up on supplies. Who knows how long this snow will last? Some are saying it's doomsday. People are rushing to hoard goods. It's freezing. I'm ordering takeaway. It was the same in my previous life. Supermarkets were ransacked for food. If you went on the first day, you might still snag a few cucumbers or tomatoes. Back then, seeing the snow, I sensed something was off with the weather and hurried home by car. I ended up running into Jolie Stevens and Neil Clark, who were about to go out shopping for groceries. Catching them in their affair, the atmosphere between Neil and me became tense. Anger surged through me and we had a fight first thing. Afterwards, none of us went out to buy supplies. By the time we came to our senses the next day, the surrounding supermarkets had been cleared out. Remembering this, I worried about Jolie and Neil going out to buy food. So I sent her a message directly. Darling, the snow's too heavy now, and supermarkets are basically empty. I've got connections and have ordered stuff online for you. Just wait for the delivery. Okay. Probably because she hadn't received any money, Jolie's attitude towards me was quite cold. But considering there was food coming, she couldn't completely ignore me. Now she's probably bragging to Neil about how I've prepared food, while cursing me as a fool. I turned off my screen, took ingredients from the fridge, and cooked a few homestyle dishes. The braised pork, with its layers of fat and lean meat, was coated in sauce. The cucumber salad on the side was refreshingly crisp. I wolfed down 3 big mouthfuls with rice. As I ate, I scrolled through netizens' comments and some expert predictions. Experts said this was just a brief snowfall, likely to return to normal tomorrow. I pursed my lips, recalling the timeline from my previous life. In my past life, the snow did suddenly stop in the evening, but at 3 a.m., an unexpected blizzard swept in, blanketing every inch of land. It was also after tonight that temperatures would plummet to -40 degrees Celsius. After eating, I washed up and went to bed, making sure to cover myself with the blanket I'd prepared in advance. When I woke up, the internet was flooded with news. Freezing to death. What kind of weather is this? When has the South ever hit -40 degrees Celsius? I slept under 3 blankets last night and still woke up cold. Yesterday I was so focused on buying food, I forgot to get some warm gear. This morning I checked and all the hand warmers are sold out. If only I hadn't been lazy yesterday and gone out to grab some food. Now I can't even leave the house, and I've got no food left. Boo-hoo. I wonder if any delivery riders are willing to take orders in this weather. Stop snowing, please stop. Surely the temperature won't drop even further. Yes, it will. In the week-long blizzard that followed in my past life, temperatures in our area dropped to -50 degrees Celsius. Remembering that experience, I couldn't help but shudder. After eating and drinking my fill, I snuggled in bed planning to watch a film. Jolie was probably still being proud, thinking she'd give me the cold shoulder. With the supplies not arrived, she hadn't called to ask about them. She likely assumed that, given my personality, I wouldn't deceive her. I couldn't be bothered to contact her either. She must be having a tough time now, probably with little food at home. I imagined her and Neil, cold and hungry, huddled together like 2 quails, and couldn't help but laugh. I spent the next 2 days eating and sleeping. Occasionally I'd go online to see people's voices of doom and gloom. On the 5th day of the extreme cold storm, I took a bunch of ingredients from the fridge, planning to have a hearty meal while watching the snowstorm through the floor-to-ceiling windows. As the first mouthful of sauce-covered beef slid down my throat, a long-missed sense of satisfaction enveloped my stomach. Bliss. Just as I was savoring the moment, a video call came in from Jolie. I pressed accept. Hank, it's been 5 days. When will the food you ordered arrive? Our son is starving. As soon as I answered the call, I heard Jolie's desperate questioning. It seemed she couldn't hold back anymore. Our son Ben was also there, his mouth turned down in a frown. Yeah, Dad, I want chocolate, he whined. I feigned surprise and asked, Oh dear, hasn't the food arrived there yet? Everything I ordered has been delivered here. I then turned the camera to show the hot pot on the table. The broth was still bubbling, and the table was laden with ingredients. Various meats, meatballs, and vegetables were neatly arranged, with a bucket of ice-cold cola on the side. The temperature outside had dropped significantly, but I had made some adjustments to the cottage during the days I spent tidying up. Plus, I had the underfloor heating on while we still had electricity. The room temperature was a comfortable 26 degrees Celsius. Jolie and Ben, huddled under 2 layers of blankets, stared wide-eyed at the screen. Wearing just a t-shirt, I prepared to give them a live eating show. As they watched me swallow a piece of black pudding, Ben gulped. Dad, I want hot pot too. Mom's been making me eat salad for the past few days, and she won't buy me any snacks. We've only had pasta at home, and today she didn't even add an egg to it. I nodded. Good boy. Dad's ordered ingredients for hot pot. I'll call and check on it in a bit. There are snacks too. Hearing this, Ben perked up immediately. Yay! I want hot pot. And lots of crisps and chocolate. Thank you, Dad. Probably mindful of Neil's presence, Jolie didn't say much more. Not wanting to upset Neil, she made a few casual remarks before ending the call. I pulled up my heated blanket and drifted off to a contented sleep. When I woke up the next day, it was almost noon. The sky was overcast, with dark clouds hanging low, as if about to fall. For the first few days, supplies were adequate, and everyone at home had their heating on, so life wasn't unbearable. But after nearly a week of heavy snow, some people were clearly running short on essentials. A flood of desperate messages appeared online. Does anyone have any food left? I'll pay. I have some hand warmers, we'll trade 5 for a pack of pasta. Anyone interested? In the panic of this apocalyptic atmosphere, even a pack of pasta was being sold for £50. Another day passed, and Jolie's video calls became more frequent. She no longer called me darling. Hank Lloyd, I must have been blind to marry you. You can't even handle this simple task. It's been a week. Where's the food you promised? We've run out of everything, and our son hasn't eaten for 2 days. I put on an apologetic face. I'm so sorry, love. The delivery people weren't answering their phones earlier, and I've just found out they made a mistake. They delivered the food I bought for you to my place instead. Can you believe it? Oh dear. I can't possibly eat all these ready meals, crisps and chocolates myself. As I spoke, I arranged the snacks on the table. I had just brought up a large bag of treats from the basement. I spread them out in front of the camera, a colorful array that looked delightful. Chocolate! Ben, who had spotted the screen, burst into tears. He crawled out from under the blanket, crying, and reached towards the screen, trying to grab the chocolate that was closest to the camera. I want chocolate. I want chocolate. Wah! I quickly tried to comfort him. Oh, my sweet boy, don't cry. Daddy will unwrap one for you. I picked up a chocolate ball, unwrapped it, and held it close to the screen. Ben cried even louder. Jolie's temple visibly throbbed. Hank, you better bring that food to us right now. Otherwise, your wife and son will starve to death at home. I put on a troubled expression. Darling, the snow is so heavy outside. How am I supposed to get there? I don't care. If you don't come, I'll divorce you. Divorce? Jolie kept shouting. She was clearly desperate with hunger. Just then, a message popped up in the property management group chat. Our estate has received a notice that from now on, every day at noon, officials will send relief supplies. To prevent people from taking advantage, food distribution will be based on the registered number of residents in each household. I said. I saw online that many estates had received similar notices, and the government had also issued corresponding policies for remote areas. On TV, official presenters were still working, broadcasting this news. Considering the many citizens in need of supplies, we will arrange for material replenishment. We hope everyone will work together to overcome this natural disaster, the announcer said. This news was undoubtedly very encouraging. A big breaking appeared on the trending topics, with everyone expressing their newfound hope. In my previous life, the government supplies were also announced on the 7th day, distributed to the public in batches. The government still has capable people. They must have detected this unusual weather event. I hadn't thought much about it before, but now that I've been reborn, I've noticed. A few days before the blizzard hit, several large supermarkets were controlled by the government, probably fearing that people would hoard large quantities of goods. So the government took action to keep most of the supplies in their own hands, then distribute them according to population needs. Seeing that there was food, Jolie Stevens also calmed down and taunted me. What use are you? She then hung up the phone. I chuckled to myself. I opened the chat box with the estate management staff. Hello, I'm a resident of 3 Happiness Lane. My family originally had 3 people so we could claim 3 portions of supplies, but because I work in the neighboring city, I don't need my share. Please give it to someone who needs it more. The other side sent a confused emoji. Are you sure? I'm sure. 2 portions of supplies are enough for my wife and child. One must have perspective. All right, I'll make a note of it. Thank you for your kindness. Reporting more people wouldn't work, but reporting fewer certainly wouldn't stop us. In my previous life, 3 portions of supplies were divided among 4 people, with me getting the least. This time, I looked at the 2 portions of supplies. How would you 3 divide them? Thinking about this, I felt great and immediately devoured 2 large roast pork joints. The next day, everyone received their supplies. People were sharing photos online, mostly of bread, bottled water, and sausage rolls. Some people were still dissatisfied. They've given us food, but can't they give us some blankets or something? We're freezing to death. What? Having food isn't enough for you? They feed you, give you drinks, and now you want them to make sure you sleep comfortably too? Do your parents even care for you this much? Although there were occasional disharmonious voices, most people were very harmonious, saying words of gratitude, except for Jolie Stevens. She said online that the property management was shortchanging people, giving only 2 portions of food to a family of 3. She suspected that the management staff had kept the food for themselves. They certainly wouldn't accept this accusation, so they directly posted screenshots of our conversation. This left Jolie dumbfounded. Many people paid attention to this incident, some saying I was noble, others saying I was foolish. Jolie didn't make any more noise about it. After all, her affair with Neil Clark was indeed disgraceful. She only called to curse at me. Hank Lloyd, you think you're the only one who can be a good person, huh? Our son is at the age where he's growing. How is 1 portion enough to eat? Go tell them to give that portion back right now. I put on a meek appearance. Darling, how can I say that? We clearly have enough to eat. Can't you ask our son to bear with it a bit? Otherwise, who knows how fat he'll get? Jolie was still angry, so I continued, or is there someone else in our house? You haven't been cheating on me, have you, darling? I said it half-jokingly, but Jolie Stevens was taken aback. She then continued to scold me. What are you talking about? Fine, if you don't want it, then don't. 2 portions are enough to eat. I'm hanging up. Just seeing you makes me angry. She did hang up the phone, but I couldn't let it go. For the next month, I video called her and our son every day. Darling, the power hasn't gone out yet, so I want to see you and our son as much as I can. Who knows when the electricity might fail, and I won't be able to see you two anymore. Love, I think my cooking skills have improved. This beef and potato stew is perfectly tender, and the pork ribs turned out great too. Look at that color. I'll cook it for you when I get home. Ah, it's a shame the fresh meat will run out soon, and we'll have to switch to dried meat. Honey, your bread looks quite good too. All the bread here has fillings, which doesn't seem very healthy. After a month, Jolie had become thin and pale from hunger. There also seemed to be some bruises on her body. I wonder if Neil Clark had hit her. Ben Lloyd had also become less talkative. He would only come to watch when I was eating snacks, silently crying as he watched. At first, he would cry and ask for some, but later, for some reason, he became too afraid to speak. His little face had also grown noticeably thinner. I guess he was probably scared of being hit too. In the second month, the government started rationing electricity, and I could only call them for an hour each day. Jolie and Ben had both lost a lot of weight. Besides the marks that seemed to be from domestic violence, they also had chilblains. But they were alive. I thought things would continue like this, difficult but manageable, until the 4th month of the extreme cold storm when the supplies stopped. The snow outside stopped at the same time as the supplies. Everyone cheered, thinking they had finally weathered this natural disaster. But within an hour, the snow started falling again, light but steady, and the supplies still hadn't arrived. This time, everyone's hearts sank to the bottom. 3 months had passed, and most families had truly run out of even the tiniest bit of food. Even with rationing, it was impossible to cover everyone's needs. In many places, quite a few people had starved to death, especially for Jolie and her family, who had been surviving on meals meant for 2 people for a long time. I could sense they were at their limit. Now that the supplies had stopped coming, it was as good as a death sentence for them. After waiting a while, an official notice came through. Due to necessary system maintenance, supplies will be delayed by 3 days. The Met Office has detected that snowfall will cease and temperatures will rise significantly in the coming days. Citizens are advised to manage on their own for now. In my previous life, we hadn't seen this notice due to network and signal issues. We had thought the government had abandoned us. It turns out they had specifically monitored the temperature rise for these few days. So they were using this time to rush repairs on some essential measures to deal with the upcoming snowstorms. As we were talking, the snow outside stopped again. But no one could muster any joy. According to the official message, the blizzard would return. I didn't tell Jolie that the government would continue to distribute supplies. She only thought we had been abandoned. After going hungry for a day, Jolie completely broke down. She cried in front of me, saying she regretted everything. I asked her what she regretted, but she just shook her head, not saying a word. Ben was also quiet, until I spoke up. "Darling, come to me. I have so much food and drink here. You and our son come over, and the 3 of us can surely be happy together." Jolie's eyes were red, but when I mentioned 3 people, she glanced to the side with a guilty look. Then she said weakly, "Honey, how can I get there?" It was indeed a problem. Although the snow had stopped, it was too deep. The cars were all buried underneath. Moreover, even if we dug them out, they probably couldn't drive on such thick snow. But I had already thought of a solution for them. Use the sledge at home. Don't you remember? You insisted on buying it before. Jolie had never worked. We met when we were young, and after graduation I supported her. She loved fitness and extreme sports. She could ski and rock climb, and even went on an adventure in a tropical rainforest before our son was born. Years of exercise had kept her in good shape, so I believed she could definitely make it, even with her body functions significantly decreased. Of course, if she couldn't make it, that was that. The city I'm living in now isn't far from home, usually just a 2-hour drive. The sledge would be more tiring, but it's better than waiting to die at home. Unlike others, 3 people eating rations meant for 2, they would either starve to death or be killed by Neil. Thinking of this, Jolie found the idea more and more feasible. She seemed to have found new energy and immediately got up to look for the sledge. But suddenly she thought of something and paused. She turned back to me and said, "Honey, let me think about it. I'll text you later. Okay?" With that, she hung up the call. I knew she must have gone to discuss it with Neil. Who knows, after they find their way here, they might just kill me. After all, even though I'm being nice to her now, Neil definitely won't let her reunite with me and enjoy a good life. And knowing about her affair, I probably won't be so devoted to her anymore. Not long after, Jolie's message came through. "Honey, our son and I are ready. You wait for us at home. Okay?" I smiled. "Of course. By the way, you remember where I'm renting, right?" I remember. It's the flat your company rented for you, right?" As she was sending messages, I sent over the address of my original rental. "Yes, that's the flat. Darling, be careful. Okay? You can do it. I'm sure you'll find your way here. I had a dream last night. In my dream, I saw my past life. After I died, the blizzard finally ended in the 5th month. Order was gradually restored, and the 3 of them survived on my corpse and the supplies later distributed by the authorities. When the government began to punish the crimes committed during this period, my son was manipulated into saying that I had voluntarily sacrificed myself for my wife and child. As for Neil Clark, he was just a guest visiting our home, entrusted by me to take good care of my wife and child in the future. Jolie Stevens inherited the property and house I had worked diligently for 10 years at the tech company. She married Neil Clark, and my son rightfully called him Dad. Only I was left, just a few bones. covered by a handful of yellow soil that appeared after the snow melted. I felt resentful. If this dream is true, with only 1 month left until the end of the extreme cold storm, I can't let them survive comfortably. So, come and find me, wife. One search and not a sound. I gazed out the window, noticing the snow had completely stopped. Due to the terrain and the special precautions I'd taken around the cottage, there wasn't much snow accumulation nearby. After getting dressed, I opened the door to check the temperature outside. A cold wind instantly penetrated my clothes, seeping through my limbs and into my bones. I had barely taken half a step out before retreating back inside. The thermometer beeped, displaying a current temperature of -40 degrees Celsius. And this was during the daytime. The Met Office wasn't wrong. Compared to earlier, -40 degrees Celsius was indeed a significant warming. At least people could venture outdoors now. Logically, melting snow should be colder than falling snow. The weather was becoming increasingly erratic. I found a bottle of red wine in the cellar and started drinking while reading messages from Jolie Stevens. Darling, it's freezing out here. Good thing I still had my hiking gear from that phase C. My hobbies aren't completely useless after all. Honey, phone batteries drain so quickly in this cold. We brought that high-capacity power bank you bought for the house. We're almost there. Shame about the poor nutrition lately. This journey would have been much easier for me before. Jolie had been walking from day to night. At -50 degrees Celsius, she finally sent a message. Love, we've arrived. Where are you? They hadn't died en route, tough bunch. I raised an eyebrow and pulled up the surveillance feed I'd installed in that flat. I'd set up hidden cameras by the door after my takeaways kept disappearing, trying to catch the thief. They hadn't noticed them. Now Jolie was hunched over, looking exhausted, repeatedly knocking on the door. Darling, please open up. Seeing no response, she turned to Neil Clark hiding in the stairwell. As Jolie turned, I spotted a kitchen knife in her left hand. If I'd actually been in the flat, I'd likely have been stabbed the moment I opened the door. With still no movement inside, Jolie grew impatient and called me. Hello? Hank, are you in there? Why aren't you opening the door? I paused before asking, who's that man with you? And darling, why are you holding a knife? Planning to kill me? Jolie visibly panicked. Of course not. The knife was for protection on the way here. That's someone I met on the road, my gym instructor. I know you have food, so we're just trying to save a life. Good karma for the child, you know? Jolie, do you really think I'm an idiot? I've known about you and Neil for ages. I'm not opening that door. You don't even have government aid now. Enjoy starving to death. Hello? Hello? Hank Lloyd, you can't do this to us. Our son is out here too. At least let him in. Seeing I'd hung up without mercy, Jolie burst into tears. What do we do? How did he find out about us? Our son started wailing too. Daddy, I'm hungry. Please open the door. Everyone shut up. Let's try breaking down the door. Neil shouted. We've traveled so far. Where would we get the strength? Jolie whimpered. Get up. I won't accept this. Earlier during our video call, I'd carefully avoided showing the background, letting them believe I was living it up in the rental flat. Now Neil's eyes were bloodshot. Perhaps his craving for the food inside gave him unprecedented strength in his weakened state. He began hacking at the doorknob with the knife. Though the flat door was wooden and easily damaged, Neil's starved body was too weak. He stopped after just a couple strikes. His thick clothes made him start panting heavily. After a brief rest, he continued chopping. Jolie huddled with Ben nearby, trembling as she watched the now crazed Neil. Finally, the door opened. Neil's eyes lit up with wild joy, but immediately after, he was dumbfounded, because behind the door was nothing. The flat was empty. Realizing he had been deceived, Neil Clark stood frozen in place. Outside, snow began to fall again, mixed with fierce winds blowing up from the stairwell. Neil remained stunned for a long time. Jolie Stevens and Ben Lloyd were too afraid to speak. After a moment, Neil slowly turned around. He held a knife in his right hand, and with his left arm outstretched, he pulled Jolie and Ben, who were huddled together into the room. Ben's cries echoed throughout the entire flat, interspersed with Jolie's pleas. "I'm begging you, please don't. He's my son. He's always thought of you as his real father. Mummy, save me, wah wah wah." Neil remained silent, but there were intermittent sounds, as if the knife was striking something. Soon after, Ben's cries grew weaker and gradually stopped. I let out a sigh. Ignoring the dull ache in my chest from our blood connection, I turned off the surveillance feed. Another month passed, and the sky cleared. I knew this time it was a genuine clear day. Internet communications were fully restored, no longer plagued by the lag of recent times. Life seemed to regain a sense of vitality. A few days later, the temperature rose to -4 degrees Celsius, and people emerged from their homes, bursting into tears. Social order gradually recovered, and the world that had been submerged for nearly half a year began to function again, albeit haphazardly. Those violent incidents born from the ugliness of human nature during the breakdown of order were also dealt with one by one. Neil was arrested. He had killed Ben and cut off Jolie's lower legs. With these, he had survived the final month. The entire flat reeked of blood. When the original landlord found out, he took Neil to court. Neil will spend the rest of his life in prison. He also paid out all the money he had swindled from women while pretending to be a fitness instructor. With this, the grudge between us was finally settled. After the snow melted, some areas experienced flooding. Many people joined volunteer teams, and I donated my remaining supplies, working together with everyone to fight the disaster. I never imagined that the feeling of sunlight on my skin could be so warm. Through my fingers, I saw a light called hope. At least we survived, didn't we?